Story 1. The sealed envelope felt thin, almost weightless, yet it contained the kind of gravity that could crush a man. Father Marcus Rourke didn't need to break the Vatican seal to know what was inside. The chill had already reached his bones. It was a transfer order, coded edificium, the edifice. It was Latin for a structure of immense, overwhelming dread. It meant a town. His supervisor, Cardinal Bellini, had been brisk and utterly devoid of his usual paternal warmth. It's a cleansing, Marcus. A severe infestation. Standard demonic ingress. Nothing you haven't handled. Use the right. Stabilize the local parish. Report. You'll be back in Rome before the month is out. Bellini's eyes, however, had betrayed the lie. They were two gray stones in a terrified face, and they communicated a single, stark truth. Whatever this is, Marcus, I regret sending you. The town was called Blackwood Creek, nestled somewhere in the forgotten folds of the American Midwest. Marcus arrived in a rented, unmarked Ford sedan. The official story, provided by a terse, pale state trooper at the makeshift roadblock 20 miles out, was an outbreak of a highly virulent, but unspecified, fungal blight. A quarantine. But there was no scent of mold or sickness in the cool, oppressive autumn air. Just the smell of damp earth and the unsettling scent of a place holding its breath. Blackwood Creek looked beautiful, if dead. Every home was neat, every lawn trimmed. Toys lay untouched in yards, a red wagon by a porch, a tricycle leaning against a perfect white picket fence. The residents hadn't fled in panic. They had just stopped. The single paved road led to the town square. The bell tower of the Church of St. Jude stood sentinel against a bruised-looking sky. As Marcus parked near the town hall, a profound silence descended, thick enough to muffle the sound of his own beating heart. He was looking for the local priest, Father Michael, the man whose panicked, cryptic distress call had bypassed the usual diocesan channels and gone straight to the Sacred Congregation for the Causes of Saints, the body responsible for handling high-level spiritual threats. The rectory door was unlocked. Inside, the scene was one of suspended animation. A half-eaten bowl of cereal sat on a small kitchen table. The morning paper was folded open to the comics. Everything suggested life was happening, up until the very second it wasn't. In the small, dimly lit study, Marcus found Father Michael. He was sitting in his armchair, facing a blank television screen, a mug of cold coffee resting on the armrest. He wasn't dead, or injured, or contorted in the final stages of a possession. He was just there. Father Michael. Marcus's voice was a rough intrusion into the silence. The priest turned his head with a slow, grinding stiffness that made Marcus's hand automatically reach for the silver crucifix concealed beneath his coat. Father Michael's eyes were wide open, a pale, milky blue. They weren't focused on Marcus, or the room, or anything in the physical world. They held the vast, empty stare of a man watching the end of the universe on a loop. The Vatican sent me, Marcus said, trying to project competence. Father Michael smiled. It was a smooth, effortless curve of the lips, utterly devoid of muscular tension or genuine amusement. It was the smile of a ventriloquist's dummy. Welcome, Father Michael said. The voice was his own. Thin, high, and fragile, but the cadence was wrong. It had a hollow, echoing quality, like the words were being spoken from the bottom of an empty well. The harvest is ready. Marcus kept his expression neutral, though his professional instincts were screaming abort. Demonic possession. Volatile, aggressive, sulfurous. It attacked the spirit, using pain, blasphemy, and physical violation to degrade the soul. The possessed fought their hosts. They railed against God. They spoke in ancient tongues, revealing their pride and malice. This, calm, orderly, sterile. The entity in Father Michael wasn't struggling with his host, it was comfortable in him. It wasn't corrupting the soul. It was using the body as a quiet, functional vessel. I am here to conduct the major exorcism, Father. I need to know what you encountered. What is the name of the entity? Marcus kept his voice low and firm. Father Michael slowly rose, his movements smooth and unnaturally graceful. He didn't blink. It has no name. Names are for the small things. The things that want things. He paused, that vacant smile still pasted on his face. This one simply is. And now, we are all part of its quiet. Marcus knew the rule. Never engage in conversation, only command the demon in the name of God. But this felt less like confronting a demon and more like trying to reason with an empty, perfectly shaped glass jar. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to reveal yourself and state your purpose, Marcus commanded, holding the crucifix forward. Father Michael tilted his head, studying the crucifix with mild, scientific curiosity, not malice. Purpose. We do not have purpose anymore. That is the point. The purpose was heavy. The purpose was loud. Now, we are simply perfect. He gestured vaguely toward the window, which looked out onto the silent street. Go look at the town, Father. See the perfection. See the order. You came here to exorcise. You wish to put the disorder back into them. Ignoring the unsettling question, Marcus backed toward the door. Where are the others? The townspeople. They are in their homes, doing what they must, Michael replied, the words dripping with unsettling contentment. They are still. Marcus left the rectory and headed straight for the Church of St. Jude. If the entity was here, this was its focal point. The church interior was flawless. The altar polished. The hymnals stacked. The candles unlit but perfectly aligned. He walked toward the apse, where the tabernacle stood, usually the most vulnerable and often desecrated point in a possession case. But here, the tabernacle was untouched. Beneath the altar, Marcus noticed a faint, unnatural scraping sound. He pushed aside the thick velvet drape and found a small, bolted hatch leading to a crawlspace or basement. It was recently used. He retrieved a slim penlight and a set of lock-picking tools from his kit, a concession to the modern, pragmatic church, which knew sometimes the faith needed a little assistance from locksmithing. He worked quickly, the tiny metallic clicks echoing in the vast, silent nave. The moment the hatch opened, Marcus was hit by a wave of cold, stagnant air. Not the heat of hell, but the cold of the void. He lowered himself into the dark, damp cellar. It was a small storage area, filled with dusty vestments and old Christmas decorations. But tacked to a rotting wooden pillar was a sheaf of papers, handwritten notes, scribbled frantically, not by Father Michael, but by a different, firmer hand. The script was Italian. Marcus, a fluent speaker, began to read, translating the horror line by line. October 22nd. They sent me ahead. No title, no credentials, just a field kit and a promise of silence. They called it Project Silentium. October 24th. The town is quiet. The people are watching the grass grow. The children sit in the schoolyard, not moving. The initial assessment was wrong. This is not a demon of pride, lust, or envy. This is a nullity. It is a demon of apathy. October 26th. I performed a small rite on Mrs. Henderson. Nothing. No scream. No contortion. No reaction. She just smiled. Her will is gone. The entity didn't possess her. It relieved her. It removed the burden of choice, of fear, of pain. It turned her into a perfectly functional, compliant biological machine. October 28th. I found the source. It's not from below, it's from the side. I can't explain it. It is a tear, a fissure in the reality of choice. It doesn't take souls, it neutralizes them. It makes the world clean, orderly, and pointless. It makes the struggle obsolete. The final entry, dated only 2 days prior, was written in a shaky, almost indecipherable hand. They knew. Bellini knew. Rome didn't send an exorcist to defeat a demon. They sent one to witness the effect of an anti-demon. They lied about the possession because a possession is a war, and the church understands war. This is not war. This is perfect, unresisting surrender. They sent me to see if even the purity of the right could awaken a spark of resistance. If it fails, they will glass the town from orbit and bury the truth. I am a censor, a final data point, and now, I can feel the quiet settling in my own mind. The note ended there. The name signed at the bottom was Father Julian. A name Marcus recognized. A legendary Vatican specialist who had vanished 6 months ago. The official word was a quiet retirement in a remote monastery. Another lie. Marcus slumped against the cold, damp wall. The weight of the world, which had been the driving force of his life, suddenly felt crushingly heavy. The Vatican hadn't sent him to exorcise the town. They had sent him to see if the apathy would consume the soul of one of their best soldiers. They needed to know how fast the surrender was. They were testing the containment breach with a human reagent, him. He realized now why Bellini had looked so terrified. It wasn't fear for the town, but fear for the precedent. A demon of malice could be fought with faith. A demon of indifference, one that made life easy by removing meaning, that was a philosophical weapon the church could not defeat. If the will to fight was the first casualty, the right was useless. Marcus looked back up the steps, where the silence of Blackwood Creek waited. He could still flee. He could use the sedan and drive the 20 miles back to the roadblock. But the words of Father Julian, the quiet settling in my own mind, had taken root. What if they are right? A new, soft voice whispered in the back of his mind. What if this struggle, this constant battle against the darkness, is the real lie? What if the peace is in the surrender? He gripped the crucifix until the silver bit into his palm. The physical pain was a needed anchor. He had to find the fissure, the source that Julian had mentioned. He took a deep, shaky breath, and started digging beneath the wooden pillar where Julian's final words were tacked. He didn't know what he was looking for. A door, a portal, a strange growth, but he knew he wouldn't find it with holy water and Latin. He would find it with desperation and a lie of his own. He was going to pretend to surrender, to gain the town's trust, and find the perfect, quiet heart of the thing that was not a demon. Story 2. The stillness and the seed. Marcus emerged from the rectory's cellar, wiping the thick, clinging dust of Father Julian's despair from his trousers. He smoothed his clerical collar and forced his face into a mask of benign, professional calm. If this was a lie, a test of containment, then he would play the part of the willing subject. He had to become still. The moment he stepped back into the sunlit, silent street, the air felt lighter, yet infinitesimally heavier. It was the crushing weight of ease. The temptation to just stand there, breathe the cool air, and watch the yellow leaves fall without caring about the outcome of anything, was immediate and physical. It settled on his shoulders like a weighted cloak. He walked past the old Ford, consciously maintaining a smooth, even pace. No hustle, no anxiety, no purpose. He was simply traversing a space. His first contact came 50 yards from the church. A woman, perhaps in her late 30s, was kneeling on her lawn. She was pulling weeds with painstaking precision. She wore immaculate gardening gloves, and the weeds, placed into a small woven basket, looked nearly identical to the grass she was preserving. It was pointless labor, perfect for a community that had abandoned meaning. As Marcus approached, she paused her work, her movements not jerky or surprised, but flowing, like a machine whose sensor had registered a new variable. "Good morning, Father," she said. Her voice was level, almost toneless, the sound of a voice actor reading script lines on an empty sound stage. Her eyes, pale hazel, held the same unsettling vacancy as Father Michael's. "Good morning," Marcus replied, stopping near the edge of her lawn. "I am Father Rourke, assisting Father Michael. You must be Mrs. Albright." He guessed the name, testing her. She smiled that smooth, dead smile. "I am Helen. I am weeding. The symmetry of the lawn is important." "It is, indeed," Marcus agreed, trying to match her flat sincerity. "Tell me, Helen, have things been peaceful here recently?" She stood up, slowly, dusting off her knees with unnecessary care. She looked around the neighborhood. The perfect houses, the silent, empty streets. "Peaceful," she echoed. "It is finished now. The worry is gone. The fretting is gone. We simply are." She then added, tilting her head slightly, "You are still carrying the burden, Father Rourke. We can see it in the tightness around your eyes. It must be very heavy." It was not a threat or a judgment, just a statement of fact, offered with the casual, unsettling care of a doctor diagnosing a terminal illness. "You are still alive, but you won't be for long." Marcus felt a sharp, internal spike of panic, but he immediately smothered it. Apathy is sensitive to struggle. Show no struggle. "The transition is sometimes difficult," Marcus conceded, using the language of spiritual renewal. "But I am ready to accept the quiet." Helen nodded, satisfied. She pointed down the street, toward the town's small commercial block, where the town hall stood. "The structure awaits your report, Father Rourke. We all await the final structure. We are gathering there, near the Weeping Stone. It is the proper order of things." Weeping Stone. Julian's. Fisher. Marcus had his vector. "Thank you, Helen. I will report." As he walked away, he glanced back. Helen was already back on her knees, pulling the near-identical weeds from the perfect grass, performing her eternal, meaningless task. The town square was eerily clean. No wind-blown trash, no graffiti, not even a dead leaf out of place on the pavement. Parked cars lined the street, but they were spaced with geometric precision, the distance between bumpers uniform. Near the center of the square stood the Blackwood Creek Town Hall, a squat, red brick building dating back to the 1920s. Marcus could see a small congregation of townsfolk walking slowly, deliberately toward it. He noticed the children first. About a dozen of them were standing near the steps of the town hall. They ranged in age from toddlers to teenagers, and they were all performing the same, agonizingly slow action, stacking flat, gray river stones into neat, conical piles. There was no argument, no racing, no sudden collapses followed by tears. Only the repetitive, silent placement of one cool stone upon another. They were building tiny, perfect monuments to nothing. Marcus approached a young girl, maybe 7 years old, her blonde hair tied back neatly. "Hello," he murmured. She didn't look up. Her hands, small and grubby from the stones, lifted another rock. "What are you building?" he asked. "A tower," she answered, her voice soft and utterly flat. "What happens when it's finished?" "It will stand. And then." She paused, the stone hovering an inch above the pile. Her eyes finally flicked up to his, and for a fleeting, terrifying second, Marcus thought he saw a spark. A flicker of the child she was supposed to be. But the spark was instantly swallowed by the pale blue emptiness. "Then we will build a slightly larger tower," she finished, placing the stone. There is no end to the structure. The sheer, endless compliance was the true horror. Demonic evil was chaotic, but this entity had found the perfect antidote to the human spirit, the sublime, suffocating order of inertia. Inside the town hall, the main chamber was vast and dimly lit. About 40 residents were already assembled, standing in neat rows, perfectly spaced. Not talking, not fidgeting, just waiting. Marcus saw Father Michael standing near the front, motionless. He noticed the weeping stone immediately. It was a granite memorial fountain set against the far wall. The fountain had been turned off, but a faint, glistening trail of dark, viscous water seemed to be seeping directly from the stone, pooling slightly at its base. The trail of liquid led from the stone to a heavy, double-door vault in the back wall. It was not a safe for money or papers, it looked like the steel door of a mausoleum. As Marcus walked up the central aisle, every head in the room turned to watch him. He felt their vacant gazes wash over him, cool and judgmental. They were not judging his faith or his purity, they were judging his unwillingness to be still. He reached the front, standing beside the silent, smiling Father Michael. "The new shepherd arrives," Michael droned, his voice carrying in the quiet hall. A man at the head of the assembled group, Mr. Henderson, if Julian's notes were correct, stepped forward. He was tall, dressed in a perfectly pressed plaid shirt. "Father Rourke," Mr. Henderson said, his voice as dead as Helen's. "You have traveled far to find rest. We welcome you to the final perfection. We are here to receive the next instruction for the order. It is simple. It is complete. It is the final design." He pointed a finger, slow and deliberate, at the base of the weeping stone, where the dark liquid pooled and seemed to vibrate faintly. "The fissure," Henderson said. "The doorway of apathy. It has provided the final solution. And now, Father Rourke, you must give us your answer. Do you stand with the struggling, chaotic world of the past? Or do you embrace the perfect, quiet, eternal structure of Blackwood Creek?" The vault door behind the stone, heavy and metallic, began to slowly, quietly, slide open. The sound was like the scraping of a massive, indifferent clock winding down to zero. The darkness inside was not merely the absence of light, it was a hungry, palpable void, and Marcus knew the fissure was finally revealing itself. He realized he was standing at the threshold of the greatest lie the Vatican had ever told. The opening of the vault reveals the true nature of the anti-demon, which will be the focus of the next chapter. Do you want to continue with Chapter 3, where Marcus has to make a move to disrupt the order before he is fully consumed? Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment and turn on notifications if you enjoyed the video so you never miss an upload.